Hello everyone, this is John.
This is Wesley.
Welcome to Purple Curtain Podcast, the non-weekly podcast about the Sakamichi groups Nogizaka 46
Mm-hmm.
and Nogizaka 46 Undergirls.
Mm-hmm.
So I think firstly the obvious thing we want to talk about is Mayan graduating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a really, really big change which I think is going to change the entire group, you know, the way it's set up and like its public profile and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing to say is that Mayan had a really really big effect on so many people who are Nogi Saka 46 fans now.
Mm-hmm.
Personally speaking, I think Mayan was the first member who really connected with me
Mm-hmm.
when I was getting into the group.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting to. I'd been, like a 48 group fan for quite a long time by that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was really, really interesting to see, someone who was the face of the group, with the same kind of profile as someone like Achan, but who sort of spoke to me a bit more immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of found her to be a more engaging personality,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something that I hadn't really thought about the particularly big popular members of 48 group up until that point. So that was something very different, and I got into Nogizaka 46 because of Mayan. Although I'll say I did betray her and switch to Kaz's Mayoshi almost immediately, probably after 3 or 4 weeks, I think. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, how did you feel about Mayan? Was Mayan one of the members who was responsible for getting you into Nogizaka?
Me not. I don't think it would be her, but
Right.
I'm quite interested to hear that you say she's the one that connects you more than say Ajang, because I don't know about like most people, but I feel like for a lot of people, their first impression of Ma Yang, especially way back then, is that she might be a ice cream, and that's totally just based on her look. You know what I mean? Like it's not
Yeah.
really based on seeing her interacting with anyone. It's just that because she looks like the type of beauty that's like way up in the curve. You know, there's a Japanese term that describes the flower up on top of a curve is unreachable and it's kind of like beautiful up there and unapproachable. So I feel like that's the reputation she will give you out if you don't really go and get to know her better. But you said that she connected to you on a more personal level compared to like Ajang and Yuko, like the 48 A's, which people have their reputation of being more approachable, I guess. So maybe you can talk more about how Maya make the connection to you.
Yeah, well, it's basically because I got into idols through Idol TV, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I was already learning Japanese, so I thought this is something I can watch. It'll be quite, and it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much always got into idol groups through their TV show stuff first, which
Mm-hmm.
is why, for me, Mayan never really had the same kind of image that she had when the group started, or when people look at the group not really
Mm-hmm.
knowing very much about it. I encountered sort of like Dork Mayan very, very early on.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very early on. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think she was doing stuff with Matson, and that
Yeah,
was that. That was my first experience of her, and why I think I ended up liking her so much.
I see. Like you encountered Dorky Maya pretty early on.
Yeah.
What's the media that you saw her the first time that you saw her on?
Um, I think I saw. I think I saw other members in AKB stuff.
Ah,
But I first saw Mayan in Noggy Bingo.
hmm. Is it the first season?
Yeah, first season.
I see. Um, do you watch it when the first season first came out, or like later on?
I think it was later on. I think it was
Mm,
maybe like a year or so after that. I think Noggy
mm,
Bingo 2 had already started happening.
I see. Do you like the first season?
Yeah, although I know a lot of Nogizaka fans don't like it, and I think it's basically because I approached it with the mentality of someone who was already an AKB fan
Mm-hmm.
and was used to seeing them do stuff like that. Whereas I think
Mm-hmm.
people who'd started watching Nogi Doko
Mm-hmm.
found it kind of alienating because it was so far away from that.
Mm. Yeah, that describes me. I hate it.
Yeah.
Mm. But yeah, I realized a lot of 48 fan, like, they first got into Nogi through Nogi Bingo 1, so the show did something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like, I think I wanted to set out why Mayan is so important. So Mayan is important to me
Mhm.
personally, but there's other things as well. Like I think Mayan's when people started to learn a bit about Mayan's history,
Mhm.
that was something that I think really connected to a lot of fans as well.
Mm.
I think Idol fans, are not the most socially adjusted group
Mm.
of people. So like the Mayan's history of like being bullied in school, having to sort of like leave school and stay inside
Mhm.
because of the mental pressure she felt. I think that's something that really connected to a lot of people, and it's why I think that for Nogizaka fans, she's always been a very very human presence once you've got to know her.
Mhm. That's true. Yeah, I think Mayan is it's really quite relatable in a lot of ways, despite looking like a goddess on top of a cliff. And once you read about her backstory, it is really quite impressive and quite moving how she came to Noki and get to know her friends. And it kind of explains how she's stuck out for all this time. Like, it's like 7 years now, I think. There's been people guessing she'll graduate way early on, and it's not quite murdered, but it's also understandable why people would think that, because Ma Young's been popular all this time, and like career-wise, it would make sense for her to leave early on. But I think a strong reason why, an important reason why she's been sticking around is because she just enjoyed being in a group and being with her friends, and yeah, I think that's something that's quite relatable.
Yeah, which I think is why when Mayan finally did decide to graduate, I think a lot of people were quite, like down about it, but I don't think anyone had the feeling like they've been deprived or anything. I think we
Yeah,
all kind of acknowledged that, like Mayan has been around for longer than any of us really had any right to expect.
that's true. Hmm.
So, like I don't, I think so, like some people are happy that Mayan can graduate because now she can go on to the next stage of her career.
Hmm.
I'd say, like most people are down about the fact that Mayan's graduating because pretty much everyone who's a fan likes her.
Hmm.
But I think nobody feels disappointed or anything like that.
Yeah, like my mom's a great example. She's a big Mayan Oshi, and management hasn't exactly been fair to her when it comes to resource allocation. Like, she's clearly not a favorite in the group,
No.
despite being like clearly one of the most popular, if not the most popular member. So a lot of my young fans feel like it's better for her to leave and pursue her own career. Ideally not with Nogizaka LC, since the same management might not treat her well anyway. So yeah, but despite that, my mom, for example, will still feel a bit remorseful about it. Not remorse, I guess, like a bit sad about it, because you can see her that's on Nogizaka content on Nogichu, on other Nogi media outlets. So that's always a lose. So yeah, there's this conflicting feeling about this.
Yeah, and I feel as though in the end, she
Hmm.
may have actually picked quite a good time to graduate because what she's doing at the moment is she's switched over from the modelling work, which I kind of, you know, I'm using my imagination a bit, but I think she found less stimulating, to acting
Mm.
work, which I think she is enjoying very much.
Mm.
So it kind of feels as though she couldn't get any more popular in Nogizaka than she is right now. But I
Hmm.
also kind of think that she's in a good stage where, concerning, like the progression of her career outside Nogizaka and what will be her career going forward.
Hmm.
So, like she probably has stuck around longer than she needed to, but
Hmm.
I don't think this is a
Yeah.
particularly bad time for her to graduate.
Hmm. Yeah. I think career development wise, this is a good time. Like, modeling is a pretty prestigious work, and she's one of the biggest model in Japan right now.
Mm.
But I think you're right. There's a limit to how much you can go as a model, right? If you want to go higher or have a more sustainable career in entertainment, acting or maybe singing, but more acting is going to be a more sustainable.
Yeah.
And we recently got that role in that movie. That movie is called I Draw My Smartphone or something like that. It's pretty successful. Like the first movie was pretty successful. So this is a pretty good opportunity for her. And hopefully the second movie will be just as successful. And yeah, maybe this will be a springboard for her to do more acting. She also mentioned wanting to do singing, and there's been this rumor. I think it's just a rumor, but it would be nice if it's true, that people want to, like, someone in Sony wants to hook her up with Yonezu Kenshin, the guy who wrote
Yeah.
Rabbit. Yeah, and that would be a pretty big deal because he's a very talented songwriter and singer. So yeah, if it's a good path going forward if they can keep developing her career in their acting front and their singing front.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be great because, like, no, Mayan's not like Ika-chan levels when it comes to singing or anything like that. But
Mhm.
she's definitely good enough at singing to be a successful solo idol.
Mhm.
She is a pretty good singer, like definitely
Mm.
good enough to sort of like make pop music. So yeah, like I hope she goes for it. I think it would be really interesting to see that.
Mhm. Yeah. Just a bit about her modeling career. I think, like, we've been talking a bit more about her, what her meaning is for us fans on a more personal level, but I think her modeling was like very important for a group on the structural level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I
well,
probably yeah.
yeah, because
You were
there's a
saying?
couple of things there. The first thing is that Mayan was a successful model, so people got to know her as the face of the group, and
Mhm.
then became fans. But the other thing is that Mayan's image is very popular with girls. Like Mayan is much more popular with teenage girls than you'd really expect from, like the average idol group center.
Mhm.
And I think it's been really, really good because I think Mayan has been a big part of what's made Nogizaka a group with quite a broad sort of fan base when it comes to the demographics, the different kinds of people who are into them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, I mean, I'd say probably, like the average demographic probably still is, like adult males.
Mhm.
But I've got the impression from day one that more women and more girls are into Nogizaka than were ever into AKB when I was following them.
Mhm. No, I think that's a fair assessment. I think maybe before Maya become the model for Ray, maybe that was true. That it was just pretty much like AKB, overwhelmingly male.
Mm.
But once Maya become the official model for Ray and start bringing other members into modeling, I think that's only possible because of Maya's success as a Ray model, and
Yeah.
then raising Nogi's like a profile. After that, Nogi start attracting more of a female fan base, and I say after the modeling things, Nogi's like a fan composition might be more like either 70-30 or 60-40. I mean 70-30, 60-40, around that level.
Mm.
Whereas before that, it might be more overwhelmingly male, like maybe 80-90,
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, I think my becoming a model was very critical for Nogizaka in not only shaping its image with all the fashion going on, but also like increasing the fan base, increasing the profile of Nogi. Like I think that thing, the development where Maya become a model, is the single most important development as an event for Nogi's success today.
Yeah. Well, I think broadening the fan base is inherently good because you're bringing in demographics who wouldn't be interested in looking at their singles otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But what it also does is that if you've got a fan base with like a much broader group of people within it, it kind of helps to eradicate some of the negativity that surrounds idol groups.
Mm.
You know, because people can be very, you know, negative towards
Judgmental.
them. And I think that if you've kind of got this image of being a group that's got quite a broad fan base, has more women in it, it sort of means that I think people are more likely to come to Nogizaka to ask them to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. There'd be less of a stigma, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also wanted to say, you know, like another thing that I think is really, really good is that, you know, my personal opinion is that Mayan has been like the face of the group for most of its history.
Yeah.
You know, like Ikoma was pushed as the face of the group, and Nanase was very, very popular, and probably the most popular member with fans within the group. But if you're talking about who does the public really associate the group with, I think it has to be Mayan. Mayan's very, very good because she has like, she has the idol image, she has enough talent. But the other thing she has is that she has a sense of humor, and she's actually quite, you know, despite her shyness, you know, and despite her sort of problems with relating with people, you know, on a personal level, at least at first, you know, she was always really, really good on TV. And I always thought that by having a member who was, you know, like good at talking on TV, you know, was capable of, you know, like doing pretty much anything without really getting too embarrassed about it. You know, like Mayan did a great service to the group by making them very easy to access.
Yeah, I always feel like Mayan should go on a variety show more. She's quite, like, she might not be the straight out comedian of the group. That would be more like Majin or Katsumi, but Maya's still pretty good, and being someone who's so prominent and like so representative of Nogi, having her on variety more could be really helpful in attracting more people in the group. It's kind of a shame I feel like she didn't get to go on the prime time variety more, but yeah, what's done is done, and hopefully she'll get to see more opportunity on that front when she develop her solo career too.
Yeah, so, you know, what I would say is that, you know, I think in contrast to Kayakizaka, because Hirate had a very, very specific image, you know, which I kind of feel as though was slightly, I mean, if you listen to Hirate talking on her radio show, she's actually, you know, like quite an open, likable person. But I feel as though that was something which never really got across. And I think it got across with Mayan a lot better. And what that did was opened up the group to sort of, you know, if people are kind of wondering whether this is really the thing for them, I feel as though Mayan's personality, like, opened up the sort of door for people to become interested in the group. Whereas, you know, Hirate's image, at least, even if not her personality, I think closed off quite a lot of people. I mean, it opened the door to, you know, like a very, very specific and, you know, like a large but specific section of people. And that's why I think that, you know, Mayan's image was really, really useful for the group.
Yeah, I feel like Kayaki management wanted to scout a particular image for Kayaki. It was more restrictive, I guess. And I don't think that was too healthy or helpful for the Kayaki members.
Well, we might get back to talking to them about a little bit later, because there's some more things coming up in our discussion which link into them. But yeah, like I think that, you know, Nogizaka were quite lucky because Mayan's image and personality left quite a lot of doors open for them.
I feel like Nogi was fortunate in the sense that their image got to develop more spontaneously. I think Kayaki was kind of like their success was their curse almost, because Silent Majority was so successful and because there was this specific image associated with it, management wanted to make sure they sculpt their performance of the group, the media exposure of the group in a specific way, and I think that bring them down a path that wasn't great. But yeah,
Yeah,
going
well, I
back
mean, I
to
think it's true,
yeah.
we're talking about Nogizaka, you're right that I think Nogizaka's image at first, it was kind of,
Weird.
yeah, it was kind of hard to tell what they were actually going for.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like when SKE were launched, it was kind of like athletic girls,
Mm-hmm.
NMB was funny girls,
Mm-hmm.
HKT was sort of like cute girls.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't really, kind of hard to tell at first what Nogizaka was trying to be. Although I think in the end, that kind of ended up helping them because it allowed the members to, like bed in and produce a group based on their own personalities without there being a particularly strong managerial direction for it.
Yeah. And insofar as they try to like direct it in a certain way, I think it completely failed. So it ended up becoming more spontaneous than scripted because their script faltered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Ma Yang was very, very important in helping the group develop its identity and pushing it to success. But that now also raises the question of who's going to be that one driving force after Ma Yang's graduation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does raise that question. I think, there's only a few, to my mind, in the short term, there's only a few candidates, and it comes down to either Ika-chan or Asuka. I think are the only members who are like popular enough in their own right to lead the group.
Yeah.
And Ika-chan, I feel, is basically too busy with the other projects that she has. So it kind of has to be Asuka, at least in the short term. And I kind of say that over the last couple of years, Asuka has shown every sign that she can do that. I guess the only question is, first gen does seem to be dissolving, so I kind of think there are question marks about how long any of those members will be around.
Yeah, personally, I would like to see Ika-chan Asuka Center, and objectively speaking, I think that center would be really cool to see. I say that as a totally neutral person. I have no vested interest in this. I think Ika-chan Asuka Center, double center, is the way to go forward.
I know you're joking, but you could still be telling the truth here. My personal opinion is that actually would be good to see. I think one of the things I don't want the group to do is to place too much pressure immediately on a specific member. So from that perspective, Ika-chan and Asuka double center might actually be one of the best things they could possibly do.
Yeah, I do think objectively that is something ideal, although of course I do have a bias when it comes to this. Although I do think Asuka can be a third ace if required. I think she has the talent to do that. She's a very good dancer. She's very popular. She has a personality that's very, very interesting, and maybe not quite relatable in the sense like Ma Yang, but it's a
I feel as though Asuka is fantastic, but also probably one of the least relatable members because it's almost impossible to figure out what she's thinking at any given moment in time.
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of her for a long time, you would appreciate her growth. Like Asuka in the early days and Asuka today is clearly there's clearly difference in her personality, and I think if you're a long time fan, you will appreciate that. And if you're just a new fan, you will just find her very likable as in a purely idol term.
Yeah.
She's interesting, she's quirky, but she's also a pretty idol, a cute idol who's really good at dancing and who's decent at singing, right?
Yeah.
So
what I'd also say is that I think that, we were talking about how, like Mayan was a very good representation of what the group was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if Mayan's going to be replaced by Asuka, Asuka is a very, very different personality.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that what we have is a situation now where third and fourth gen are going to make up the vast majority of members in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually feel as though Asuka combines with those members very, very well.
That's true.
So I feel as though Nogizaka's image might change quite a lot. But if Asuka is going to be the face of the group, she's actually quite a good fit for the point where the group is now. Which I guess, is going to... One of the things I wanted to talk about is, basically, really first gen is almost gone now, aren't they? There's not that many members left, and there's not that many members who you'd really expect to still be around in 2 or 3 years' time. It would basically, I'd expect Asuka to still be around in a few years' time. As both like one of the youngest members of the group when it was founded, and also one of the most popular members, and someone who's finally going to get a chance at the forefront of the group, having been near the back for quite a long time. And she's also someone who, unlike Kika-chan, doesn't really have a huge amount of projects outside the group as well. But, I'd say that in a couple of years' time, the only people I'd really still expect to be there would be Asuka and Manatsu.
Yeah, I think you're right in that Asuka complement with their third gen really well. She's obviously close with some of them, and I think that's good for the group. I don't think the group's image will change too much, but yeah, I agree that Asuka would be a good center, good face when it comes to the upcoming gens. And I think the clearest example of that is in the Valentine episode of Noki 2, where she keeps getting rejected. I mean, where the co-highs show their love for her. So, I think there's a clear path going forward. And yeah, I think another thing you mentioned is how Asuka doesn't have too much job outside. I think that's true. But I also think it's just that Ikujan's job outside the group in nature is more time consuming. It's musicals take a lot of time to rehearse.
Yeah.
And once you're done rehearsing, you have to actually perform them. And Ikujan's musical is always like they're always performing them for a long time, much longer than many other smaller projects. Like we often see musical that's like on performance for like 2 weeks, maybe 1, even 3, maybe. But Ikujan's one go on for months, and there are so many of them. There's the Romeo and Juliet run, there's the less miserable one, and then there's the other ones that are less famous but still very, very important hits that are gonna be performed for a long time, and it takes away all her time really to be there and maybe be centered even as much as I would like to see. So yeah, Asuka have several advantage over Ikujan when it comes to this.
Yeah, so I think the important thing to stress is what we really have here is we have a situation where, in the next couple of years, I mean, it's already started happening really, but in the next couple of years, what we're going to see is we're going to see first gen either almost completely disappear or potentially completely disappear. And the same goes for second gen as well, because second gen have been around for quite a long time. Second gen still aren't being used very much. It's really only Ki-chan, Mai-chun, Hori, and maybe Ayane a little bit.
Yeah.
But this brings us back to the other important graduation of the last couple of weeks, which is that Kotoko is going to graduate as well.
Yeah.
And again, like, not particularly surprised to see Kotoko graduating, as Kotoko has been around a long time. Kotoko has always been one of the less popular members in Kotoko has always not really got a lot from management either.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Kotoko graduating might sort of, again, we've sort of started seeing a few first gen members leave and then more first gen members following them.
Mm-hmm.
So, given that second gen have been neglected pretty much since they were formed in the first place, I think it's quite possible that in the next couple of years, not only will we see first gen mostly leave, but second gen mostly leave as well.
Mm.
And then in a couple of years' time, third and fourth will not just be the members filling in the Senbatsu, they'll be the Senbatsu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shame that Kotoko never got much of an opportunity to shine, I think. Like, it's true that she's maybe not one of the most popular member, especially if you look at her handshake, but I think it's also true that a lot of fans do like her. Like, maybe they're not...
I think that in retrospect, Nogizaka may have not been the best group for her, because I think that if she'd been in like a 4 or 5 member group, like she'd be able to stand out a lot more, because nobody dislikes Kotoko, everyone likes Kotoko, but the nature of big groups means that unless you're the number one of a lot of people, your popularity comparatively is going to be very low, even if you have high approval from people who are fans of the group, which is what I think she had.
I think Kotoko, well, one, I don't think she's too good at putting herself forward.
Yeah.
I think that wasn't helpful in a large group like Nogi or other large group. I think it's helpful to be able to put yourself forward. I think it is still a missed opportunity on management part though, because like I said, first, Kotoko is quite well liked by everyone, even if she's not their Oshi. And secondly, I think despite not having a lot of exposure or resources given to her, she's still like someone that's on a lot of people's attention. Like there was those posts like on the prettiest member.
Yeah, I think the polls are interesting because there was a recent one which sort of like had Kotoko in second place as the prettiest member after Mayan.
Yeah, and
that's not the first time I've seen Kotoko in that position.
Yeah,
I've sort of like seen her rank high in polls like this before.
Yeah, like clearly she's in a lot of people's minds, so I always felt that maybe if management's willing to give her a chance, take a gamble and maybe put her front and center for some project, maybe that would be a unexpected success. Like I feel like it would be a small gamble. Like you put forward a small amount of resources and their payout might be huge, but they never did that. And it's not like there's no avenue for Kotoko to do this too. Kotoko's a big anime fan. She likes anime. She likes a lot of voice acting. Like there's a direction to try to pursue stuff, but they never did that. And yeah I hope
I
Kotoko...
always kind of thought that it was a bad move that when they were doing things with Matsun connected to stuff like that, connected to stuff like anime, I thought it was always a really big mistake they didn't send Kotoko with her.
Yeah, that's a missed opportunity. I can only think of the special Gundam episode where she's been on, and she was able to participate in discussion quite knowledgeably, and like she's able to present herself well. Like I don't think Kotoko is good at putting herself forward, but when she is in situation where she's going to partake in conversation, she can do that pretty well. It's not like she can't talk, you know what I mean? So if she's given the opportunity, I think she can perform well, and yeah, that opportunity never came. I hope once she's graduated and if she is interested in pursuing more upper career in entertainment, she can pursue more stuff on this field because, yeah, I think she can do it if she wants to, and if there's opportunity given to her.
So yeah, thinking about, again, going back to the group after Mayan, I think Mayan graduating by itself will be quite a big thing because, you know, Mayan is probably the member with easily the biggest casual fan base, I think. And to be honest, I don't expect those people to stay following the group when she's gone. So a big part of the casual fan base of the group is going to leave. But I think this moment was inevitably going to happen. And people like Asuka can have big casual fan bases of their own, but they won't cross over. So, you know, like Mayan's fans can never really be replaced, but I would say that as far as I'm concerned, the group is in the best possible position it could be for this eventuality. Because there are members who can take the group forward right now in the short term, you know, like people like Hori, Ika-chan, Asuka, you know, and people like Kazumin and Manatsu who are fairly well known, even if they're not really faces of the group. You know, and there's also a great deal of, you know, like upcoming talent in, you know, like Yoda, Sakura, Momoko, Minimin, Suki. There's, you know, like there's lots and lots of members who I think will be able to step up and sort of like be front row, potentially center. And I think that, you know, when I sort of saw AKB's most popular members graduate, I was a lot more anxious than I am about Nogizaka. I think Nogizaka's popularity is going to decrease, but the members are there for the group to still be popular.
Yeah, we're relatively well set up, and I think you're right in that we have a lot of younger next-gen idols who are, like, they're really popular. They might not be Mayan level, like Mayan is clearly a tier above everyone, a step up before everyone, but like in third gen, for example, there's Yoda, there's Kubo, there's Mitsuki, Umezawa, Momoko, and then in fourth gen we have Sakura, Kaki, Ayame. Like, there's a lot of people who can continue to support the group going forward. So even if Mayan leaving will bring a chunk of casual fan with her, the group is not in a very precarious situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that, you know, like, obviously, losing Mayan's fans is going to hurt the group, but if anything, it's not actually going to hurt the group as much as I expected it to about 2 years ago. You know, because 2 years ago, you know, like, third gen has still only been around for a couple of years. Fourth gen weren't even here yet. You know, and as well as third gen evolving in the way we hoped they would, you know, like fourth gen have also come in and progressed very, very quickly in a way that I don't really think people would have expected a couple of years ago. So I really feel as though the group is in a much better situation than I expected to be when this was happening.
That's true. Remember several podcasts ago, I was like, I don't think 4gen might not be in them, and here we are.
Yeah, and then in the last one, we sort of said, you know, they're doing really well.
Yeah. Like, within the lifetime of this podcast, 4gen has risen up, and
I don't know whether they're... I mean, I don't know if 4th gen are ready to be the public faces of the group yet. What I do know is that we can have 4th gen members coming straight into Senbatsu without the fan base worrying about it at all.
Is there a
version? Really useful.
Yeah. Is there a version where 4th gen that you think can step up and be more of a public base than maybe others?
I think I'm going to actually swing all the way around to my original thought when the group first debuted and say Mizuki. I think it's partly because, like, it's partly image, and it's partly because, like, there's something very, very strange about her. I think that's that's actually really, really useful when it comes to PR. And the other thing is, like, she works incredibly hard, and you can sort of, like, see that there's a really, really strong desire to sort of, like, make the most of the opportunities that comes her way. And I think that's something which could be really, really useful for the group in the next couple of years, especially when, when it's a little bit unsure whether the fan base is going to sort of, like, maintain its size over the next couple of years. That kind of ambition is really, really useful, because it's something that I kind of feel as though AKB's newer gen's kind of lost at a certain point.
That's true. On Mizuki, I think she's interesting. I think she clearly has the popularity that can take up such a role. I also feel like she's a little bit like people's fans' attitude toward her is a bit polarized, though, if you know what I mean. Like, people who like her quite a bit, but people who are not feeling her also feel a bit strongly about that. And
I think what we need is we might need more of a double act, in the sense that I think Mizuki might be the member that gets sent out to TV shows and stuff. Yoda is the member that people relate to more.
Yeah, I feel like Yoda is universally liked. Although I don't know, I don't sure that doesn't matter, but she is short.
Yeah, she is short. Because I
she
think
not
Yoda maybe might never actually get a permanent center, but might still end up being one of the most important members of the group anyway.
I think she clearly is one of the most important members of the group right now. It's just that I'm not sure can she be more of the outer face of the group. Like, I don't know. Does it really matter? Like her short height.
Well, the thing is that like, girls also like Yoda. Yoda might not be like a kind of aspirational figure in the same way that Maya was and Asuka is now. But they do like her, and that's really, really important.
That's true. I feel like she's the member. She's the idol I want to adore, want to like cuddle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think this is kind of where, there was something that I think we both wanted to bring up, which is that, recently what we've seen is Hirate leave Kayakizaka. I think pretty much everyone can assume because she's been worked too hard. And that seems to have really put the future of the whole group at jeopardy. But I think if we also look at what's happened in AKB, Yahagi Moeka was made center very, very quickly, had a great deal of pressure placed on her, and then graduated very quickly. And I think what the group really, really needs to avoid is a situation where one member has to carry too much of the load by themselves. Because I think one of the things that kept the group coherent over the years has been its ability to share the workload, and also to like share the stress of being one of the publicly known figures of the group. Because I kind of I know that you were never an Akoma fan, but I was an Akoma fan when the group was still young. But I feel as though very quickly, within 3 or 4 singles, I feel as though her, her enthusiasm for the role was waning, and that she was not as engaged as she used to be. And my personal opinion is that happened for exactly the same reason that we saw Yahagi and Hirate graduate. I think her reaction to it might not have been quite as extreme as those two people, but I do think the pressure of always being the center and public face of the group, really ground her down. So, like looking at Nogizaka's history and the history of like groups connected to it, I think it's really, really important to make sure that doesn't happen here.
I think you're right in that it's important to make sure that doesn't happen, and I think it's unlikely to happen. And I think it's unlikely to happen not because management doesn't want to. I think management, for whatever reason, really like to push the one true center. Like that's their approach that I get. We see it with Kayaki, we see it with Hinata. And I think Ikoma, yeah, you're right, I have a reputation, I guess. But there is one contribution she made to a group, and that is by, okay, it's kind of mean, but by being a center that was never successful, and because management just will never push Ma Yang, because for whatever reason they're not quite fond of her. This failure made sure Nogi was never going to be a one center group or one true center kind of group.
Yeah.
Instead, we have many, many members who are all very prominent and who all have a chance to be center, and the group just end up kind of shuffling between everyone. And I think that's a healthier development.
Yeah. Also, like, talking about the same thing, I think it's actually quite helpful that of all the potential centers of the group, no one really quite fits the profile that they actually want. Like I guess Sakura does, but I think Sakura might be the one member they might potentially load too much pressure on, and I'm slightly worried about that because like I thought she did very well being center. She's the kind of person they usually go for. So I am slightly concerned about them loading too much pressure on Sakura, but beyond that, again, I don't think it's a situation that's likely to happen either. I just really want them to avoid it.
Yeah, like even 4th gen, I don't think Sakura is necessarily more popular than Kaki, for example. I think Kaki might be, like, popularity-wise, I think Kaki is quite competitive, and maybe Ayame is not that far behind either. So I think even if they want to push Sakura, I don't think they would do it because, I mean, the last single, which she centered, it's decently. I actually quite like the song, but it clearly sounds less than the previous single. Like, so I don't think they're in a position where they're going to push anyone that strongly. And yeah, that's actually a healthier thing for the group, and we're in a good position as a result.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, to be honest, I like Sakura. I'd sort of like to see as much of her as we possibly can, so I really don't want her to burn out. But yeah, I mean, I guess, have you got anything else you want to say about where you see the group going before we move on? Because we did get a sort of like a couple of questions or sort of like comments from people that I'd like to follow up on in this episode.
Yeah, we can go to question. I think I said everything I want to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking one last time about Hirate, one of the questions that came up is that with Hirate gone, there is the possibility for Kayakizaka to slightly switch its style if they, if Kayakizaka sort of learn the lesson that's been given to them, they might want to stress their members out less than they are now. And that might lead to a sort of change in tone in the group, because the second gens of them are a little bit closer to Nogizaka. What would you think about the possibility of more, if all the Sakamichi groups align their sort of like disparate images a little bit more? Like, what would you think about the possibility of more intergroup activities happening?
One
of the things that, I think is that, I was like a 48 group fan for a really long time. And the one thing that strikes me is that 48 Group can't do that much intergroup stuff anymore because I think they're having financial problems. So they can't do the kind of big projects they used to do. But 48 Group always used to be much more enthusiastic about the idea of their groups doing stuff together. Sakamichi have never really done... I kind of feel as though it's debatable about whether they're really even sister groups because they don't really do much together. They're more like cousin groups.
No, you're right. I personally don't mind if they interact more. It's kind of weird why Sony never did more to interact, to bring more in group interactions. But yeah, I don't mind it personally. The other question about Kayaki, what they have in play going forward. I'm not a big Kayaki fan. I'll just admit that first.
I mean, like neither of us are we? So.
Yeah, and I don't know much about second gen, but I do feel like they're not in a position to push anyone as one true center anymore. I don't think any member can quite do that. I mean, management like Kobayuri, but I don't think she's quite there. And I don't see anyone else doing that. I don't see Sagai, Peijang, Lisa doing that. So I don't think they're quite in their position to push one center and go all in on that anymore. So I guess a group image change is likely, or at least an image shakedown, like tone down maybe. So I think one problem with them is that a lot of their potential center replacement are gone before Techi is gone even. Like there's Yumin, there's Neru, and there's Suzumon, who's also gone. Like it's these are people who I thought could have centered.
Yeah, Kayaki's management I think should really be kicking themselves. In particular, they never really got themselves into a position where they could use Neru as center. Because Neru's close enough to, I mean, like Neru's downbeat. She's not emo, but she's downbeat, and I kind of think they would have been a lot easier to use her.
I feel like they never really got around to utilizing Neru is because her image quite different from what they're looking for.
Like physically, you mean?
I guess so. I mean, for example, her singing and her dancing is not quite Techi level 2, right? And she's not as edgy as Techi. I mean, Techi is not necessarily like that personality, right? She's can be quite fun and stuff, but I mean the image, right? The image you're looking for. I don't think if you just look at Neru, you wouldn't think she's Kayaki, like that image of Kayaki. I think, and I think that's the problem for them, that they wanted to sculpt that particular image, and maybe that's why they never got around to using her.
Yeah. So the thing is like, it's not so much that I'm opposed to it. I'm not sure what they do because things like like the sport day kind of things that 48 used to do. It's kind of like not really in the image of any of the three groups. And again, there might be sort of like the scope for joint concerts, but I feel as though the overall style of what the groups are doing is so different. I'm not sure they'd be able to adapt without there being a sort of drop in quality. Because I'm thinking I'm thinking in particular of, like just after Silent Majority came out, HKT performed Silent Majority, and Kayaki Zaka performed Ski Skip. And like famously, like HKT was sort of like had the piss taken out of them for their Silent Majority performance, which is just sort of like, like it's what you'll get if you get an idol group who've sort of like done a dance a couple of times to do it on stage in public. Like, it's not a good idea. But the other thing is that the other thing is, like, less famously, like Kayaki Zaka's performance of Ski Ski Skip was really bad as well, because they couldn't inject it with the same kind of energy that HKT brought to it. And I fear that if we get a joint concert between all the groups, that might end up being a really big problem, especially because they won't have practiced as much as they usually would have done.
Yeah, and there's also that Kayaki performance of Synchronicity, which a lot of Nogi fans didn't like. They thought this one's less about professionalism and how well it's performed. This is more about the style of the performance, the choreography of the Kayaki Synchronicity. A lot of Nogi fans thought was quite like they go the opposite direction of what the songs try to convey, and they were annoyed at that. So there's also the stylistic problem that might be.
I think that there's the possibility for more interaction, but I think the management really need to sit down and think quite carefully about what they really expect to get out of it before they start doing it.
Yeah. I personally would like to see sport competition. Like, I always enjoy those kind of special variety shows, and like a long time ago, Kayaki did Renchu Nogichu, and they kind of did some stuff together, and that was kind of fun, right? Like, I like sport competition a lot more, and
I like them because they're dumb, and
like
dumb idol stuff is always the goals. Yeah, you can't get much better than that.
Yeah, like, even if you're bad, you're not like athletically talented, that's fine. It's not about winning, right? It's about having fun and people enjoy silly moments. Like
everyone will enjoy it except for Momoko, who will not enjoy it.
Momoko was, I don't know, I mean, yeah, maybe. Momoko was on Nogiego's Virgin English Special too, and she was okay there. Speaking of Nogiego, just a quick interjection. Fourth Gen did really well there. They seems okay. This is a bit mean, but they seem smarter than Virgin.
Yeah, fourth gen. I mean, fourth gen are boosted by the fact that Ray can almost speak English.
Oh no, she was pretty good. She managed to have her proper conversation with Nick, and
but I think overall you're right. Fourth gen probably are like a bit smarter, which I think that would make for a good Nogichu episode actually.
Yeah, like they don't have to have a sport competition. They can have more quiz type too, and I mean the quiz type between other group. You know what I mean, like Kayaki and Hinata. Like if they want to do a intergroup collaboration, I would go for that type of stuff instead of a joint concert.
Yeah. I'm talking about concerts, so I'm just gonna say a little bit about like the second gen concert that's coming up. Like, this is something I'm really, really excited about because I know that, earlier on the episode, we were saying, what if Kotoko's graduation means that second gen ends up like first gen and sort of members start, like dropping off one by one. I think, like this is where, there's also scope for optimism here as well. Because I feel as though to a certain extent this concert might be an attempt by management to sort of, scope out how popular second gen are by themselves. And I think, Nogizaka fans have, loved second gen pretty much from day one. But they've never really had much of an opportunity. And I think as a gen, they've all suffered from the thing we were talking about when we were talking about Kotoko, which is that loads and loads of Nogizaka fans really, really like second gen, but there's just no one in that gen who was their favourite, or someone they liked enough that they'd sort of change from their original favourite member to one of them.
Yeah.
So I think that fans will be enthusiastic for this. And I really hope that if this concert is a success, it will pave the way for greater integration of second gen members into Senbatsu.
Hopefully, I would like to see that, and I would like to just brought back a point we mentioned earlier about how management likes to go all in on one super center, whereas Noki is more of a multipolar kind of group where we have many significant members.
Yeah.
I feel like part of second gen's rule is that management they go with their usual habit again. They go all in on Miona,
Yeah.
and that didn't work out, and then they just kind of abandon ship. When the fact is, second gen is more of a multipolar kind of generation, just like every other Nokia gen, pretty much. Kijan's popular, Lande is popular, Ayana is popular.
Maichen's weirdly popular.
Yeah, Mahjong's really popular. So much so she's like the rare second gen Senbatsu regular. But they try to go all in on Miona, and Miona's great, but it's second gen is not like that. Second gen is not like one super popular member, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully the concert will showcase that, and they did make Heejun Center that time, and
I do think it also really helps. I think it's really going to help that concert. There's a lot of members in there who've got experience of centering songs, because there's lots of second gens who centered Undergirl songs in particular.
That's
so
true.
like obviously like Ki-chan has a lot of experience. Ranza has a lot of experience.
Ayane
has experience. I think like Miria has also centered songs as well. Is she not? So this is something I'm really looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to the effects it's going to have on the group.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see. Just seeing, on their concert, every time they did those underlive back then, every member get a chance to center different songs. So that helped second gen as well. I think they're all very good performers. So even if they never got a particular song where they are the real center, like the song is just written just for you to be center, even if they don't have that, many of them are talented and learn in centering.
Yeah, so like another thing which I wanted to just say a little bit about, like I don't think there's much scope for discussion here, but it was really nice to see Marika's exhibition start, and also to see a lot of members coming into sort of like, not just sort of like, so like original members went to see it, and also like third and fourth gens who looked up to her went to see it as well. And it was really nice to see like, all of the members of the group, like from, like day one right through to members who sort of like, weren't really contemporaries of Marika at all going to see this. And it's also really nice to see, like a member choose an unusual career path and, like seemingly is already succeeding in it as well.
Yeah, it was nice to see everyone there, and they have Malika post all these images and all this video. Like, it's really quite a treat to see. I wondered that, is it Neru or is it Mamie? One of them are a big Malika fan.
Neru's a big Marika fan, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if she go visit us, especially since these days we're seeing her a bit more again. She seems to be still continuing her career on entertainment, just not as high exposure. But yeah, it would be nice to see other members. And I don't know, did you notice her girlfriend there too?
I didn't, but it's basically because, like the fact that Marika has a girlfriend has just been kind of like filed away into my memory because she's like a regular citizen. So like, like my brain sort of like says that, like a regular citizen should be left alone, like, so I've basically not even like memorized her face. I know that sounds quite bad, but I'm kind of like, she's not in the whole idol thing, so I feel as though even mentally I should kind of leave her out of it.
No, I think that's fair. It's fair to respect her privacy, although I guess, Monica posted about it, so it's like we don't need to be too hush about it, but yeah, we don't need to be too gung-ho about it and talk about it all the time either.
Yeah. So I also got a question, like somebody asked me about what do we think is going to happen with the Sakamenchi Kenkyusei, and what do we think the future of 5th gen is?
That's have you heard a rumor? about the new grouping?
Yeah, well, this is something, something which, I've read several rumors that, like these Sakamichi Kenkyusei, instead of actually being sent to Keyakizaka, Hinatazaka, and Nogizaka as originally intended, will end up forming their own group, which I think is a really, really bad idea, because I feel as though the sort of like Zaka, I feel as though like the Zaka franchise has become saturated. I don't really think there's any more room, like for a new group to thrive. I mean, when Keyakizaka was originally like envisioned, they came along with a very, very different image to Nogizaka, and it's kind of like, while it wasn't my thing, I thought, well, at least there's people here who will be fans of this. There's some, this is like very, very definitely something new. And I kind of wonder if there was a fourth Zaka group, would it really be something that's new enough for people to relate to?
Yeah, my thought on this is that if it's true, right? I agree. I think it's overly saturated, but I also think I always think that every time there's a new gen, every time there's a new group, I feel like, oh, this is a bad idea. There's already so much idols. There's a current member. Come on, there's second gen, and then it kind of work out, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then a while later, oh no, another new group is coming, and I have the same thought again. Oh, it's oversaturated, man. There's second gen, there's third gen, man. Why do you need a fourth gen? And then it kind of work out, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm just thinking, am I like that again? Is it really oversaturated? It never, like, it always kind of, even if it's not a smashing success, it kind of work out. But at the same time,
yeah, I guess that's the question. Like, they might not be able to have the instantaneous success that Keyakizaka saw, but like, will they break even? Maybe they will. Like, I can't say that I've got any real insight whatsoever into the finances of idol groups and how they work. So, like, maybe this is a potentially winning prospect, especially because, we've talked about this on the show a couple of times before, but Nogizaka, because they sort of give a free pass effectively to members who've done enough individual handshakes, they don't have to do them anymore. And maybe, the fact that it's very difficult to go and see Nogizaka members for handshakes now. And, like, probably in the near future, more members will start joining that group who don't do them. Maybe, if they launch a fourth group, people will just go and meet them because they can go and meet them and they can't really meet Nogizaka now. So maybe they will.
Yeah, one thing that I think is like a fair argument about why there shouldn't be a new group is that Hinata is still relatively new.
Yeah.
Like, do you really want a group so close to Hinata's debut?
Yeah, especially like their second generation and everything. Or is it third? Yeah. I can't remember.
I think what happened
is
that
third? Like with the recent Kenkyusei members,
they have
third.
They have one new member, I think. That's,
right, just
like,
one.
There's a first gen which include Kyoko, and then there's a second gen that include Now, and then there's like one third member. Whereas
is it Hinano? Is it? Hinano,
yeah.
Who's this?
It might be.
But anyway, yeah.
On like Kenkyusei, there's also another rumor about them. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I haven't heard about the other one.
The one that the reason they might go for the group is because a bunch of them just refused to join Keyaki.
Oh yeah, well I heard about them. I mean, this is kind of one of those things where I can kind of understand how this might possibly happen, because when all these people actually auditioned quite a long time ago, didn't they? They auditioned.
It's been so long,
a little bit over a year ago, basically.
I think so, yeah.
Because, fourth gen joined in December 2018, so maybe about a year and a half or so. A year and a half or so, Keyakizaka looked like they were doing really well. Hinatazaka looked like they were doing really well. Nogizaka maybe looked like they might be slightly slightly past their point of maximum popularity, but
Mm-hmm.
still doing well. So if you wanted to, like because it was a sort of like joint group thing, you sort of like look at that and say, well, none of these groups are doing particularly badly,
Mm-hmm.
so any of them should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now I guess maybe some of the members are looking at Kayakizaka and sort of seeing that it maybe is a group where people are kind of like having to work too hard,
Mm-hmm.
and rejecting it on that basis. I don't know.
Yeah,
This might be
I'm,
true. I don't really know.
I mean, I can see it being true, although I had to stress it's just a rumor, so it might not be. But if it's true, I'm like, I even if we ignore the career aspect, like the group might not be doing too well right now when it comes to being a successful group. Even if we ignore that and just look at the health hazard aspect of things, I think it's fair. Like, Kayaki do overwork the member, and we have a lot of stories of how Kayaki member are suffering some health problem, and management clearly is not responding adequately to that. So I think it's fair if you just look at the health aspect and just be like, no thanks, I really don't want to go there. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's understandable and that's fair, right?
I guess the final thing I think I'd say about these members is, you know, I am slightly concerned about these members because my personal opinion is that it's quite likely that this group got split in half, and half of them went off to groups and half didn't.
Hmm.
It does make you wonder a little bit about how good these members are. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
say they're not good because I don't know. I have
Hmm.
no idea whatsoever, but it does make me slightly apprehensive about them.
Hmm.
But the other thing is, though, is, Nagizaka probably could use 5th gen now. So if they send 5th gen along, yeah, probably should be fine, I think.
Is there any particular member you'd like to see?
No, I don't know any of them. But
Um,
basically,
I,
basically because like I'm a bit Kayaki Zakaranti, so I just thought if any of these members are going to end up there, I just don't want to even look into it. So
um, I would like to see Ozone Ray
hmm
in Ogi, just for two simple reasons. Okay, she's kind of cute,
is it
but
is it is it
also
the name overlap? Is it the name overlap thing?
not only the name, she's also from the same hometown. She's in Kagoshima. She's from Kagoshima. Like maybe she's her cousin. Maybe she's Momoko's cousin. So it would be so fun if like we have cousins. Like I don't know. It's I kind of trolling, but I thought it's fun.
Well, like our last idol cousin was Saito Yuri, wasn't it? So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, like not bad. Yeah, right.
Um, the last, like another thing I got is, somebody just said, can we talk a little bit about just Forky's fourth generation's rise?
Mm.
And I think we have kind of like throughout the episode, but yeah, like I'm massively enthusiastic about them. No
Mm-hmm.
one really seems to be lagging massively behind so far.
Mm.
Like they all kind of feel as though they've got a place in the group. Like I'm really, really happy with how things have turned out. I think that, like Sakura and Kaki in particular have both really, really shown that they've got the ability to kind of like be at the front of the group. And I think there are people like Sechan and Ayamen and,
Mm-hmm.
like who've also like, just shown like they've definitely got the ability to be in Senbatsu in the very near future.
Mm-hmm.
Within the next couple of singles, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like wait like a few episodes back. I remember me saying something along the line that fourth gen, I don't think they can do it. I think third gen's too prominent, and they might have their other risks of getting overshadowed like second gen, etc., etc., etc. And I'm totally wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're doing pretty well. Definitely, I think there's obvious popularity difference in the group in the gen, just like every other gen. Like, so that's not a problem. That's not unusual. But many other prominent fourth gens are doing really, really well. Yeah, as you
Like
say, it's
I'd
like
say that I don't think the less popular fourth gen members are lagging behind as much as the less popular third gen members were.
I think that's true. I think that's true. Like, I don't know, the worst doing 4th gen is like what? Mio, maybe?
Yeah, Mio or Yuri or Yuna, maybe, I think.
But they're definitely doing better than Christie, for example.
Yeah.
So
Which is
that's it.
sad because Christie's really, really nice. And
Yeah,
Renault. Christie and Renault both really, really nice.
yeah. I mean, Christie's nice, but I can kind of understand why she's not more popular member. I feel like Leno is being slept on. Like
Yeah, Renault is being slept on, yeah.
she's really cute. She's tall. I think she can talk. So I don't know.
But yeah, so, I mean, yeah, basically we're both really, really enthusiastic about 4th gen and kind of like, like I think I'm just happy to see as much of them as management are willing to give us, basically.
Is
Like,
there
I don't
any?
mind 4th gens being in Senbatsu,
Mhm.
in the front row or even center. Like I said, like the last single, like wasn't too great sales wise. I didn't like it all that much, but I feel as though Sakura did a really, really good job of like selling it to people, basically.
I see. I love the Dancing Girls choreography, and yeah, I think they did fine. Yeah. Um, is there any 4th gen member you feel like they're sleeping on, or you like to see more of?
Um, yeah. Well, like we've been talking about Sechan pretty much since the first, but I would say that she's actually. I think they are actually noticing her and using her more.
Mm,
So I would actually say not her, but Saya,
mm,
because like Saya's got a really, really interesting personality. I kind of also feel as though people like like members like her tend to not get used as much as they should do. Like Maya, I think is like the obvious example of this. Because like I think like Kaz is funny and Matson's funny, but Maya is much much funnier than any of the original generation members. Nah,
mm.
maybe not Seda actually, but Maya's really really funny and has never been like the assigned comedy member ever, which I think
Mm.
is really kind of dumb.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I imagine one of the problem of mine is that she's just simply less popular.
Yeah,
So, I think Sa's pretty wacky. I think like she was on Diego and she's kind of quirky and that's good. Um,
she's very definitely got like the kind of very very special brain that you won't get from sort of like idol variety members.
hmm Yeah, I mean, if we look at 4th gen, I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that's kind of maybe where she's heading.
Yeah,
Like the more quirky member. Um, she was in the last English 4th gen song. She did got a decently important role in it. Like she's the one with the broken glass, right? Where they try to fix her and that kind of stuff. Well, no, don't like she's the person in the group in their classroom that's shy about wearing the glasses. Anyway, point is, I think management isn't ignoring her and she's getting some attention, so I think that's good.
yeah. So we did quickly get like a couple of questions. So
Mhm.
we've already recorded quite a lot, so I think I'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. But
Mhm.
I got asked, who do you think might be captain after Manatsu?
Mm.
Because like Manatsu will probably last another 2 or 3 years, maybe be the last first gen around. But
Mm.
like we're not that far off, so I'd say if there were members of second generation still around, I would say Renachi, Miria, and Junna, all
Mm.
quite sort of like, like they're all quite oriented towards that kind of role. I think
Mhm.
especially so if I had to choose a member from second gen, I would choose Miria
Mm.
because she's very very reliable. She's got good skills, so
Mhm.
she can sort of like help people out,
Mm.
both personally and technically.
Mhm.
But I also feel like Renachi and Jinna are also quite good at sort of like reaching out and sort of like nurturing people as well.
Mm.
But I'd also kind of say that I'm not sure those three members will still be around.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like Hori might end up being more in that kind of role later on in her career.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of say that really I think it's probably going to come down to it's probably actually going to be a third gen member.
Mm-hmm.
And the two people I picked out as likely are Minimin and Kuboshi, because I think they're both very, very good at supporting people. I think Kuboshi in particular showed a lot of that kind of talent when she was introducing all the fourth gens.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Kuboshi introduced all of them on Line Live a couple of months after they joined?
Yeah, I kind of recall that. Yeah.
And she also seems to be very good at sort of like building relationships with members who are both older and younger than her.
Mm.
And I also feel as though Kuboshi should be an important member of the group going forward, but I'm also slightly concerned about making her center because of her health problems.
Mm.
So I think she might be a good choice,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Minimin is just a very sort of like likable and reliable person, so I think she'd be quite good as well.
Yeah, I agree with the idea that Kuboshi would make a good captain, and I think considering the fact that maybe that's better for her health is an important point too. Although I do want to see her as center, like I feel like among virgins.
Yeah, I think it's kind of difficult because I think that she has a lot of potential, and I think a lot of people are like worried about her, but maybe our worrying is just holding her back as well.
Yeah, like we don't know her exact situation. But yeah, I think like I don't know about you, but I feel like among the top virgin right now, this person that I would like to see at center the most is Kuboshi, and I'm afraid that if she is made captain, it will exclude her from that possibility. So
Yeah, well, it
yeah,
excluded Raker, didn't it?
pardon me?
It excluded Raker, didn't it? So
Yeah, I think so. Like they can never made center, despite the fact that I think she would be a very good one. So it's unfortunate.
I think my personal third gen I want to see centre most is Minimin, but I
Mm,
I appreciate Kuboshi as your answer.
mm. Yeah, I
It's
feel
still a
like
correct. It's not my answer, but it's still a correct one.
I'm a bit afraid that management will never make either of them center. I don't think
Yeah,
management particularly favors them.
I think management did favour Kuboshi, but they sort of withdrew it after she had
Mm,
to have her hiatus, unfortunately.
mm. Yeah, but I do agree they will both make a captain though. Like I think they have what it takes, yeah. Especially since Kobashi is very good at becoming closer with everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and they've also, we wanted to talk a little bit about, the Senbatsu was going to come out tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to take our final chance to sort of say who we'd quite like to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, quickly you'll just sort of like say who and why. So I thought centre Mayan,
Mm-hmm.
like pretty much obviously, really. Front row, I kind of thought this is going to be the last single, which I think should be really like first gen heavy.
Mm.
So I kind of arranged it like based on that. So in the front row, I'd have Ika-chan, Asuka, Matsun, and Manatsu.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering a little bit whether to put Matsun or Kaz in the front row.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end of the day, Matsun, is Mayan's closest friend, so put
Mm-hmm.
her in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's fair.
in middle row, I had Kaz, Minami,
Mm-hmm.
then Miona,
Mm-hmm.
Maichin, Zuki, and Yoda. So Maichin's also quite close to Mayan as well.
Mm-hmm.
Zuki and Yoda, I still think are sort of like going to be the sort of like primary third gens. So they were the third gens I decided to put in the middle row along with all the first and second gens. Then in back row I got Minimum and Kuboshi. Kuboshi we were both talking about, like I think they're both like important members, and also I put in Rentan and Momoko. I put in Rentan because I actually feel as though Rentan is someone like Asuka who's got quite a lot of potential to grow. I think, as the center of the singles, she's kind of like done well. So I think, Rentan I'd put in there as well. I also put Ki-chan in. I put Ki-chan in the back row because I forgot that I was supposed to put her in. Like when I was thinking about this, like all the names were popping out of my head, and Ki-chan's name popped into my head, but I did not write her down, so she's there. And the last two members I've got, it's 18 member, is Sakura and Kaki. Because Sakura and Kaki both did really well in the last single, and I've just basically excluded Ayame because as the youngest member, Ayame is the one who can do the least activities to promote the single. So that's basically the sole reason why I chose those two ahead of her. So it's center Mayan, front row Ika-chan, Asuka, Matanatsu, and Matsun. Middle row Kaz, Minami, Hori, Maichin, Zuki, Yoda, and back row Minimin, Sakura, Kaki, Kuboshi, Rentan, Peachkid, and Ki-chan.
Yeah, as for me, I didn't actually get to compose a senbatsu.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Sorry, we talked about it. It's okay if you didn't have time.
Yeah, I know I did, and then it didn't save.
Right.
And then I tried again, and there's always something missing, and I ended up expanded to 21, and I don't know, I feel like that's too much people, but then there's so much people I'm just squeezing. I do have some idea though, like
yeah. I mean, if there was anyone you would put in who I wouldn't, and vice versa.
Like one of the things that I think I noticed, like I did kind of ask about it online just to see what people thought about it. It seems like there's a consensus that people want to see Ma Yang, Center, and Frank by Ika-chan and Matsun, which I think make a lot of sense. Popular and close to Ma Yang. And yeah, people generally seem to want to see some of their members Ma Yang's closer with in their senbatsu. So for example, you mentioned Momoko, Maichun, Manazu, and yeah, it makes sense to put them in the group in the senbatsu as well. And those are members I generally try to throw in when I was attempting to make my senbatsu. The other thing is though, I wanted to squeeze in as much second gen as possible, especially since I wanted Kotoko to center the third row, although I'm not even sure is that possible now, since it seems like she's going to graduate.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but suppose that's possible. I was hoping to have Kotoko in the third row center. It would be her first senbatsu and last. And ideally, with the same logic applied to Ma Yang, I was hoping to put as much second gen around her. So that would be like probably the member she's closer with, like Lanze and Ayane, for example. And then Kijang's important, Miona, and then suddenly, I have a very influential senbatsu because I can't imagine them relegating too many third, fourth gen down, right? Like Sakura should still be in there, Kaki should still be in there. I don't think they will kick Ayame down, to be honest. And then there's Virgin like Momoko, Ume, Mizuki, Yoda, and yeah, it was quite an impressive senbatsu. And I don't know, a large senbatsu isn't exactly ideal either, right? So that was my dilemma.
Yeah.
But then maybe Kotoko will graduate so soon, she wouldn't really make it. Although even if she graduates fast, I would still like to see a bit more second gen. But I guess that's likely to happen.
Yeah, well, the best thing is, the best thing about this subject is that this is going to be redundant pretty much as soon as I upload this, because we're going to get the real Senbatsu. People probably won't listen to this before that happens either. So, oh well. But I think it's quite interesting to sort of like look back and see how we were wrong. So that's always fun.
True.
And I'm really, really looking forward to this single because, you know, I think a lot of us have been waiting for a Mayan single center for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think it's also going to be like an event as well.
Yeah.
And I'm really kind of interested to see what they come up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've been talking to some people, and yes, people are excited, but there's also a sense of dread, especially among people who feel like Mayan's never gonna get a fair deal from management.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can you imagine the riot if Mayan's not May Center?
I don't think it would be a wise decision for them to do that.
No. It would be a Macron level disaster.
Like, the thing is, you know, I think it would be too stupid to imagine them doing that. And yet, what I'd say is that, you know, like, political events over the last half year or so have kind of shown me you can never assume that something's too stupid for people not to do it. So maybe I should be worried.
Yeah, like, yeah, you're right. People will do things, and despite it being blindingly obvious that you shouldn't do it. Do you remember the screenshot I sent you a while ago? It's from a Noki Koi game.
Yeah. Let me just look it up quickly.
It's actually a 21 member Senbatsu, assuming it's a Senbatsu.
Yeah, because I'm always very militant about them being 18 because I'm an old school AKB fan, you see.
No, I like 18. I think that's the right balance between like getting enough member in and like a proper amount of people that can make our choreography like smooth. But yeah, if it's that one, they will have squeezed in 21 people, which I'm not totally against, to be honest.
So yeah, shall I just read off who the, you know, this is a kind of, I think, predicted Senbatsu that people sort of like came up with based on, you know, which members were being prioritized in Nogikoi.
Mm-hmm.
So those people are Mayan Center, and then in the front row, it's Sakura, isn't it? Is that kanji on the left there?
Yeah, that's Sakura. And then
Sakura, Zuki, Asuka, Ika-chan, Yoda, and Hori in the front row.
Mm-hmm.
And then Minimin, Ki-chan, Manatsu, Sayu, Sayu Rin, Minami, Kuboshi.
Yes.
And that's the second row. And then the last row would be Kaz Sayaka from 4th Gen, Rentan, Kaki, Tama-chan, Ayame, and Mai-chan.
I personally think it's quite realistic. Like disregarding whether it's something you would like to see or not, I can see management doing this.
Yeah, well, I mean, personally speaking, I actually didn't include Sayu because I thought she would graduate before this happened.
Same, yeah.
Before the single was released, so I didn't include her. But there, you know, like there are some members here like Sayaka, Tama-chan. You know, I'd be excited to see them. That'd be quite good.
Yeah.
I kind of feel as though, you know, that the arrangement of members is less like it's kind of like less emo than I think fans would want, but it's quite plausible.
Yeah, like you know, management seems to have an emphasis on promoting the new gens, so this
I think my personal feeling is that I think 1st Gen should be promoted this one last time.
Yeah.
You know, one last time while they actually still can, while there's enough 1st Gen members left for it to be meaningful.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see that too. It makes sense to me that if if in a way it's going to be in Senbatsu, she will be in the second row center. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
The more surprising thing for me, if this is actually a Senbatsu, is that Momoko's not in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Management have not been fond of Momoko since she took her break out.
Yeah, they don't seem to be like giving her as much resource.
Although I'd say I can't see Momoko's name in the predicted Undergirls lineup here either.
Actually, she's in
Oh
the
no, she's
center.
center. Yeah, like
Yeah. No worries. I mean, I can see her centering unders, but I mean,
I was reading it upside down.
yeah, no worries. I think fans would like to see her in Manyan's last battle. I think that's a fair sentiment.
Yeah.
Mm. It would be really, I'd be really annoyed though if like Konoko is truly in the third row corner of Ender if that's her last battle, like
Yeah.
really.
If it's
Really?
if it's gonna be her last, yeah. If it's gonna be her last one, like don't put her in the corner of Undergirls if it's the last. You'd at least give her a decent position in Undergirls if she's not gonna be in.
Yeah, like seriously?
Like it almost doesn't really matter what the Undergirls formation is anyway. To be honest.
Yeah, yeah. Like people's gonna sub her position anyway. Why not just put her, I don't know, in beside Omoko or something, right?
Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's our last word. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're just looking forward to the new single,
Mm-hmm.
seeing what it sounds like, and I don't know about you, but I kind of feel as though I know that Nogizaka will take a hit without Mayan, but I am optimistic about their chances
Mm-hmm.
anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think the group is well positioned despite everything.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's goodbye from me, John.
And for me, Rusty.